Alright, this video is sort of a potpourri. I'm going to start off with a Radio Shack story. Now, this is my meter from Radio Shack. It's really worn out. It was the first meter that came with a capacitance checker on it. Not that it would actually check the capacitor, it would actually tell you the value of the capacitor. So if you had a box of unmarked capacitors, or if you're working with a circuit and the capacitor wasn't marked, this thing was accurate within 2 picofarads, and that's really good. Okay, and I had a friend that ran a Radio Shack years later. When I bought this, I knew him, and he let me go home and get some good 5% capacitors and come in the store and actually check the meter and make sure it was going to do what I wanted to do. But I want to tell you one of the funniest stories. And I made several Radio Shack story videos, and I totally screwed up. I was hitting the record button instead of the pause, and I was causing it to make several videos instead of one big one. Well, I don't know what happened to the one story, where it went, and I don't know if it's in the one that's up there, but when I was working in the Radio Shack, the manager, he had to go to Texas once a year, so he goes off to Texas, and what's left in the store to run the store is a assistant manager that's going to go for training in Texas, or he's gone for training in Texas, and now he has to work under another manager running a store until they give him his own store. So I'm with this manager, this assistant manager, and he's doing the books every night. I'm hanging around, make sure they balance, and he knows I know electronics. I've been helping him on different things. And he says to me, he says, can you explain to me how to hook a bunch of speakers up to a stereo? So I said, yeah. I said, I got a piece of paper out and I drew it down. I said, yeah, you hook two 8-ohm speakers in parallel, and you got to make sure you get the phasing right. And here's the wire we used to use, different thicknesses for different wattage. But in there, this is like zip cord. There's two conductors in there, and you can zip the 2 wires apart. And one is copper looking and one's silver looking. And that's to get your phasing. You take the silver looking one, put it to your negatives. You can put the copper one to the negatives, but you have to keep the same on all the speakers. So you take 2 8-ohm speakers and you put them in parallel. And you take 2 other 8-ohm speakers and put them in parallel. And then hook those 2 sets together in series. So he goes in the back and he opens up like Nova 8s or Nova 7s, and which is a big speaker back in those days. And he starts opening boxes up, and he's bringing them out. He's putting 8 speakers on each side of the store facing this one wall. So I have him get some of this wire, and he starts, I'm watching him, and he's putting the silver wire to the minuses, and he understands parallel. And I showed him how to put the two speakers that are in parallel with the 2 other speakers that are parallel, put them now in series on one channel. So now he goes and gets more speakers, same type, does the same thing. So we have, let's see, 4 speakers on each channel. All right, now, back in 1975, a very common song to be here on the radio, we had the album in the store for testing stereos, was Queen. And the song he put on was Bohemian Rhapsody. And he cranks it up. And it's past 9 o'clock at night. But I sort of forgot that we had a Chinese restaurant next to us. And he's got the speakers aiming at that wall. And the stores, the walls are very thin in those type of strip mall stores. This isn't a shopping mall. This is a strip mall. So he starts cranking it up. And it's incredible. Okay, I want to tell you, you put that many speakers and you create a wall of sound in a store. And he cranks it up, and he's like playing an air guitar along with it. And I start hearing this weird noise. And I turn the volume. I'm moving the volume, and I'm like, what the hell kind of noise is that? Like one of the speakers might be letting loose. And I'm like, I've never heard any kind of noise like that. So I just happen to turn, and out of the corner of my eye, I see the Chinese restaurant owner up on the front window. He's up on the ledge of the window, banging on the window. Like, did you ever see The Graduate at the end where the guy's banging on the church door? Just like that. So we turn it down, and he's all upset, and he shakes his head and he walks away. And I'm like, holy crap. So we left everything set up. So the next day, I went over in the store, the Chinese restaurant, and I had him crank the stereo up just to see how loud it was over there. It was like it was in the room. Okay? The wall became like a transducer, and the walls are paper thin. I mean, the highs really didn't make it through as good as the lows. But I was like, that poor guy. But I see the restaurant basically closed earlier. But you had families of the people that worked there. Sometimes they had a special birthday party and or a retirement party, and that's what it was. They were closed for the public, but they had a special party over there, and we cranked this stereo up, and it wasn't one of our low-end stereos. He hooked it on the one that had the remote control. It was actually a unit, and he ended up buying that unit from another store. A guy bought it from us with a bad check, and then we got it back when he brought it back for some type of modification or something, and the store called us and said it was on the stolen list, and we got it back and the remote control. But anyway, yeah, that was one of the funny moments. You got to picture this Chinese guy. He's up fully in the window because he's up on the ledge, the outside ledge by the window, and he's standing on that, and he's banging the window, and I could barely hear him. That's how loud we had the stereo. But that was one of those funny moments. Now, I want to tell you, I went out and I bought from Amazon one of those heat desoldering units, just so in case in the future, if I do have to remove another surface mount chip. The chip that's in that radio, if you're following it along, it has they call it it's a ground plane, but they call it a heat sink. It's a little tiny chip, and it gets soldered to the circuit board underneath, and it's a big square. And I tried all kinds of methods to get that chip out. And then at one point I said, you know what? That thing's got some type of bottom plate on it, and it's only 1/8 inch square, and that's what I'm not have enough heat to heat out. So hopefully half that chip's still there. I ground it down thin where I could actually see that ground plane. The radio stopped working, but I could have bumped something. I can't see anything with that chip in the way. When I refloated, the solder might have drifted. I don't know. But from Amazon, it's supposed to come Friday or Saturday, and I'll unheat that chip, and I will put a little more time into that radio. And the heat flow unit, basically airflow unit, I can use that for shrink tubing, because what I use for shrink tubing now is a heat gun, a Black & Decker heat stripper. And I use that for a lot of swedging and getting, I showed you that you heat certain parts up, stuff that's got Loctite on it, where having the heat flow unit, I can really direct the heat exactly where I want it. I can do it a different way. So it will be useful in the future. Not, and I thought they were originally $300. The thing I shipped to my house is going to be $75. If I use it 10 times, I'll consider it. I get my money back. But what's eating at me now is I went out yesterday cleaning the neighborhood, and we had snow on the ground. Not a lot of snow. We had almost no snow this year, but people tend to throw more garbage on the ground when it's in snow, and they throw it in, and then the snow melts, and then the neighborhood looks like shit. And I went out there, and I'm picking stuff up. That's one of my hobbies. I go out there and I walk around the neighborhood, and it's a big neighborhood, and I walk around and pick all the garbage up. But people that haven't seen me in 6 months or whatever, they're out there talking to me. I'm standing there. If I stand too long in one place, my feet swell, and then I have to walk and clean the neighborhood up with my feet hurting. So anyway, and it's never good news. They're walking up and telling you, because they want to vent. They're walking up and telling you all the people in their family that have died. So nobody walks up to you and cheers you up. And then this one woman I started talking to, she just was out of it. And I let her go. And then later on, she combined the cell phone talk, and she's got a problem with her daughter. I've never seen such a run of the country where nothing exciting, fun comes along. You know, with Edwin Musk, whatever his name is, he's shooting rockets up these guys, and we've done that before. Okay, putting satellites into space, you're putting 50 of them up at a time, so people get internet that's going to become obsolete. But you're going to have that internet, that those satellites floating up there as space junk. The whole thing is out of control. There's nothing I can do about it. So, like I told you, I hide in different hobbies. But I've come to an end on hobbies. I've stopped moving forward on hobbies. And I look at what other people are doing, and they're rebuilding old cars. They're rebuilding old tools. And that's not what I want to do. I want to do something new. And, okay, and someone says you could learn. I have trouble learning languages. And like I could learn the code so I could use the transmitter I refurb. Can't happen. It won't happen. No matter how much time I put into it, can't do it. Okay, so I know my limitations. Like Dirty Harry says, a man has to know his limitations. I know mine. And, you know, I just said to myself the other day, I bought that radio just at the end of the night, just sit there and dig around with that. Of course, that was China on the label problem. And it created another rabbit hole. I've ordered a heat flow unit because of that. I have tropical fish. I have shortwave radios. I do videos. I clean the neighborhood. What other things I do? I go out walking. It's still not enough. Okay? Now, I look at other retired people in my neighborhood, and they don't do anything. They talk a big talk like, oh yeah, I went up to my daughter's house. They go to the daughter's house once a month. What do they do for the rest of the time? So I start digging on them. I start asking hard questions. No, seriously, at night, what do you do? Do you watch television? Well, I watch television, but I sort of keep falling asleep. I knew that. Okay? In my old neighborhood, I had a woman that claimed she slept good at night. And I could see her out my front window, laying in the living room, flipping through the channels of the TV, and I'd go to bed, get up in the middle of the night to pee, and I'd look at the window. She's still sitting there, but her story was, as soon as I put my head down on the pillow, I go right to sleep. People lie. They lie about their retirement, you know, and all these commercials. They keep scaring you about your medical. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. Your health is going to start to fail. But your real problem when you retire is too much free time. Now, I told you many times before, you're going to get involved with your children, and they're going to have you taking care of their children, and your day is not going to be retirement. That's a job, okay? You don't get paid, it's a job. So you say, well, I stay with my grandchildren, and that's a job. You've still found a way to keep working. When you don't have to work at all, that's the toughest thing you ever have to do in your life. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want anybody to say, oh, I wish I had that kind of retirement. I have people say that to me all the time. They're full of shit. Okay? When you have too much free time, it eats at your soul. Okay? You like at me, I sit at the end of the night, and the last 2 hours, I move around. After a while, you get tired, sleepy, but you can't sleep, and you got 2 hours. And you can put television on. Now, I redid the antenna, I get more channels. I can watch a Western. Frasier, I've gone around the television show Frasier through the episodes maybe 3 times or more. Home Improvements is on. I've gone around on that. So basically I'll have a Western on. And of course I have to keep hitting the mute because J.J. Walker, it's free, you call the number, that every commercial, okay? And the Joe Namath, okay? And they stopped doing the commercial, but then they realized, I think they made so much money with that commercial, even though you can't enroll, they still run in the commercial, which is really annoying. But I've been looking at what other people are doing retired, and here it's pathetic. I go online, I look at other people, and some people can draw, paint, but I'm like, you know what? How many hours can you sit there and paint a picture? Okay, I'm starting to think, you know what? They're lying a little bit. How many hours? Okay, because I have lots of hobbies. I don't have 1 or 2. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do that today. And you lose your ambition as you get older. Oh, and your eye-hand coordination gets bad. That's why I tell you about this. Was probably the best thing I bought. Let's get this in the frame. This light, and like I said, I can detach it from the little frame I made. But this thing, when I'm working on something, I can really twist it and get it in there and get the right angle so the light isn't in my eyes. I bought this last year. This was worth it, okay? This is the light I should have had 50 years ago, okay? And my father started with a high intensity light someone gave him at work, and he was trying to get it to work with one wire. He ran a wire from the transformer up to the light bulb, and I walked there, and he kept arguing with me. Well, that's all it had was one wire. I said, it had two wires in a jacket, and you didn't see the thing. And he argued me, and he started trying to run the electricity up through the frame, the thing that you move for the light. He couldn't get it working. I said, there were two wires there. And you just, when you took it out to replace it, you didn't realize it was a double. It was like a miniature zip cord. And that's when I realized my father's eyesight was getting really bad. He was becoming really stubborn. Okay? Nothing more with me is when someone makes me a suggestion, I really think about it. I don't bat it off. I might bat it off at first, but then I think about it. But I realized that I have enough savvy in electronics to know when I'm in trouble. Like when I had to take that chip out, I knew right away I was going to have trouble because it's too small for me to see. And they sell microscopes, okay? And I read about it. The guy warns you if you buy the microscope and you're running under Windows 7, and then they go to Windows 9, 10, or whatever they're at now, and then the software doesn't work. The microscope becomes not a brick, an anchor or a keepsake. All right, and that's the problem with a lot of things, electronic related. You buy it, and it becomes sort of obsolete. Now, I showed you my soldering iron. Okay, is that 50 years old? It's almost, I say 45 years old, and it's got a tip on it and a piece of nickel in the back, and the heating element moves, and when it hits the nickel, it sticks, and then as it heats up, the nickel won't stick to a magnet. So you hear it clicking on and off. That's how they regulate the temperature. I did a video on this thing, but that's my soldering iron, and the tip goes very small. The tip is grounded. It always was. But anyway, everybody else has a temperature controlled one. This is temperature controlled, but it's old school. But you know, when you work with surface mount, you're supposed to have certain equipment, and I'm tired of rebuying equipment. You know, like I bought a different meter. I have a new one now that does more than this one does. It does inductors. It does, you know, this one did transistors. The new one does transistors. It does inductors. It does resistors. I think it also will receive frequencies. One of them I had would do frequencies, but never used that. But in other words, that's all it is. We keep replacing stuff we had, and I'm looking at it like the cell phones. They keep coming out with new models. Okay, sometimes they add a feature in it that you might use, but most of the time, the cell phone keeps getting bigger. Then they shrink it down. Then they made a cell phone that's actually a flip phone with a full screen. Everything goes in circles. Okay, the moving forward was the original cell phone. You could answer people or take messages from people while you're out doing something else. Okay, you didn't have to come home to an answering machine. Okay, so that was a step forward, but socially, it's a step backwards for society. People are walking along addicted to the stupid things now. So when they walk up to me, they want to know certain things. And then when I'm talking to them, that thing rings, they got to go. So I caught on to that, and I know who those people are. And I have to go when I see them now. You know, and they want to know about the neighborhood, get involved. I tell them, get involved. You know, well, you ask me all the questions. And then if I have anything back to say, you got to go because the cell phone's beeping, which it's always beeping. But when they're hearing what they want to hear, you see them hit the button. And then when they don't want to hear anymore, then they let it ring, and then I watch the whole game. But that's socially causing a problem, okay? And then the fact that, you know, Trump was running around saying it was a fake election. He's got the people separated. There's people still running around saying it was fake, even though Pence has come out. It's not fixable, okay? He split the country, and a lot of people said he was going to do that, but you can't fix that at this point, okay? And that's what's going on. And I go out in the neighborhood, you know, I have to remember who's a Democrat and who's a Republican. You know, so I don't want to hear how Trump's getting a bad deal anymore. I'm tired of it, okay? I remember Nixon. I'm not a crook. I don't want to be. He was a crook, okay? But what he did is he had men bug the opposition's headquarters. They put bugs in it. So he knew what they were doing, so he could possibly get reelected a second time, because he was doing a bad job in Vietnam, because he promised he had a secret plan to get us out of Vietnam. It was all a lie. Okay, I watched this stuff. I remember it. I watched these crooks. I watched them get the average guy all riled up and messed up. And I tell you, I'm a middle of the road guy. I don't pick on anybody for the way they are, because you know, like I always tell you, they used to say, shoot them all and let God sort them out. It's not my job to bother someone if they're different than me. That's their life. But there are people here. Oh, I don't like him. I don't want those kind moving in here. I don't want. This neighborhood is mixed. It's mixed race-wise, and it's mixed religious-wise. And people come out and they always tell me I have the wrong religion, because I'm raised Episcopal. I'm raised to look after the other guy, but they're not. But they tell me their religion's better than mine, and I avoid those. I know who those people are going to be. You know, their whole day is getting someone to find Jesus. Okay, and I'm nice to them, but I really have to go when I see them. You know, I'm changing attitudes, but my problem right now is just, what do I want to work on next as a hobby? And I started cleaning the house again, getting my act in order. It's very easy to not clean something and then to work on a hobby. Okay, hobbies are addictive, and they're addictive because you're getting away from the shit you don't want to do. Okay, and many marriages have broke up over hobbies, and children. I've watched this myself. The father has an old car he works on, okay, from the day these kids are born. And as soon as he dies, they sell that thing. They can't sell that car fast enough, and they sell it cheap. That car represents all the hours that the parent didn't spend with them, and they're jealous of that car. And you go on the internet and you read about this, okay? And there's a lot of old cars, certain old ones, Model A's, Model T's. They're going for less money now. We had a Model A Ford place in Lancaster. It closed down. It was jumping all the time with people buying parts up until a few years ago. And the guy used to do a show for all the people who come from all around the country with their restored cars. He stopped doing it because nobody was coming in the store anymore. And then on the internet, oh, his father did a much better job. He didn't know what he was doing, blah, blah. No, one guy come in and put a commentary in there and says, no, what's happening is nobody wants those old cars anymore, okay? They're going for less money than they were going. So in other words, you buy a bunch of expensive parts through eBay, Auto Trader, or whatever. You put this car together and it's worth less than all the parts combined, which normally happens with a new car too. But in other words, you restore a car thinking you're going to get a lot of money for it, or at least break even. You're not. You got to really know what you're doing in order to break even. And the desire for older cars is dropping because all us old farts are dying, and the younger kids don't want that crap. They don't want it. It's old crap. You might find a few kids. Oh, I really like old cars. Yeah, you're one in a million, and there's 10 million old cars out there circulating. Same with old radios. I told you, these command radios are going for really big money on eBay. But give it a couple of years, and you won't be able to get rid of them. Okay, like I said, my stuff's going to end up in a dumpster. Like I said, I'm going to turn 70. I'm going to do my will. I'm going to get a checkup at the doctor, and it is what it is. From 70, that was my goal, to make it to 70. My first goal was 50. I made 50, and then I slid into 70. That's where it's at. And someone says, why don't you try learning a new language? Or why? I've been reading up what other people are doing that are retired, that I would say are go-getters, and a lot of them get involved in different societies or groups. My involvement is getting a plastic bag, my litter tongs, going through the neighborhood and picking other people's garbage up. And there's a lot of COVID masks. Each street has at least 10 of them in the gutter. That's the way that's going. All right, I think that's it. All right, that's it.